everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet trying to find supplies that will benefit you as an artist, either to speed up your production or just make it a more pleasurable experience. Now, for this month, I think I'm going to theme it towards October's big art prompt that is going around, and it is called Inktober. Now, I know that Inktober has been a subject of conversation for quite some time for reasons, but a lot of people are still doing it, so I thought it was the perfect opportunity to actually look at some inking supplies. Now, I did do a pen review for Tombo's pen. Please go check that out. And I thought that it was great. Even though I hate inking, I thought that it was a good pen, and I'm hoping to find some other ones. And so I'm gonna go to Faber Castel, which I really do like this company. So I'm excited to try out some of their inking utensils to see if these are worth it. So come on, let's go check it out. All right, so Faber Castel has this nice little set. It's 8 pens, different sizes, some chisel, some brush, and so, you know, there's a lot of variety here, so I'm really interested in checking this out. Also, as I am always looking for ways to do bigger areas, I'm glad that Faber Castel has put out like this jumbo inking pen, so we're gonna check that out. But let's jump right into it. Alright, so the case is, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just a plastic case, you know, nothing too special. Right. Now, the feel of these, feels kind of plasticky, right? It's sturdy, but it is definitely a plastic feel, but it's got these nice edged, this nice edge design. I think it would be more beneficial if it was on here so that you could grip it better, but you know, I guess it's an aesthetic that they're going for. They seem to be, I mean, they're all labeled, right? So you got fine, extra small, small, medium, a small brush, small chisel, regular brush, and then a 1.5. So let's try and do them in order. Find the extra small. Nope, the extra small is definitely. Actually, there's a little guide. Okay, so extra small first. So these are those mini lines. Oh. These are nice. And it doesn't, you know, I pretty much pull my pen fairly quickly when it comes to trying to ink. So having the ink actually come out and not have the little marks that come up front when you pull it is nice, and also not having the ink just kind of break apart as you move forward. So that's really nice. I do enjoy the fact that the ink is flowing really nicely. No matter how fast I go about it, it's actually coming out real nice. So, normally I don't like extra thin nibs, but this one's actually really nice. It comes out fairly dark. Don't have to worry about ink, you know, the ink actually having to go over the ink again and again just because the ink doesn't flow out of the pen. Oh, and we have to mention, as has been some of our bane to some of our materials, is that the pen actually sticks, and very securely I might add, to the back of the pen, so that's always nice. So this is the small. Same thing, ink is flowing really nice, and I do enjoy the difference. So this is thin, but it's not too thin. But then the very next one up, which is considered small, is still, you know, it goes up in size, but it's still a nice small, medium. And man, I can't tell you just how nice it is for this ink to just flow out like this. Then I don't have to worry about it. as far as, like I said, starting off really nice and opaque and then dissipating as it goes back, and then as we finish it gets dark again. So being able to just pull the ink line and not have to worry about it, that flows really nice. So that is definitely a plus in my book. F now. This is the F, and you can tell, like, from these 3 pens, you know, just these 3 pens alone, just how different the nibs are, right? So it's thin, normal, and then thick, and these are the 3 smallest ones they have. So I'm really interested to see just how far, how big and how far these nibs go as we move up. So we've got the same nice flow for the pen. It is a little bit thicker. Now I have to say though, and it might just be this pen, but it seems like this ink, so the small, actually the ink is more concise and more opaque, and also with the extra small it's also more opaque, but you can see the difference. And it might just be because, you know, the pen is warming up, it's been in the container, but it seems as though as it got bigger, the actual ink combination is a little bit more transparent. It still flows really nicely. It's just seeing the difference between this ink and this ink from size, you know, from the size up to this one is interesting, right? So let's see what the next one does. Let's see if it's the medium. Let's see if this one flows any different. No, I think that it was just that pen, because this one still has the same kind of ink consistency, so that's nice. And being able, like I said, making nice longer lines and not really having to worry about the ink coming out is a nice addition to having something that flows really nicely and, you know, has a nice consistency of ink. So, I mean, a nice opaque ink. So it was a medium. It says the next one is the brush, so let's check out the brush nib. Now, you guys know that I am not a brush person. I'm not big on brushes, but ooh, look at how dark that is, though. That is a nice dark line, and you can't argue that. And the brush itself is actually a more firm brush, so you have the ability to actually control it. In my opinion, you're able to control it a little bit better because it's a firm brush, but it allows you to get some really nice thin lines and then thick lines as well. This is a nice brush tip. Still takes some time to get used to, but if you're looking for brushes, right? If you're looking for a brush, oh, look at that. That's some nice thick lines from the brush. But even though it got, you know, it was nice and dark when it came down, when it dries, it does actually dry a little light. So you would have to go over it a couple times just to make sure that it stayed nice and dark. But the flow of this is just super nice, super smooth, right? You were able to get these nice lines. Look. Ooh. So kudos to the brush on this one. And then it still holds its form. So even though I was pushing hard on some places and stuff like that, it snaps back to the original form, so that's good. Okay. And we got the small chisel. That is a pretty small chisel. Ooh, it's soft. Okay, I don't know if I like that. It's actually a soft chisel, so when you push down on it, it actually moves. It's more like a highlighter than a chisel tip, or at least a chisel tip that I'm used to. But because it's a chisel, you can get some nice feathered lines, you know, with it not being a brush. I mean, there's a benefit there. if you're looking to have more of a chisel, use a chisel tip. But because it's soft, it allows you to get these thick to thin strokes. That's really interesting. And you also get the, you know, with the tip you can get a really nice thin line, and then you go to the thicker area, find it, right, you get this very nice thick line as well. And then, like I said, you can just, the fact that you can have these nice, you know, feathered lines, it's interesting. It's interesting to come from a chisel tip, so that's interesting. I like that. At first I was worried about it because it actually just moved on me. I was not feeling that at all. But then it gives you a nice chisel tip. The thing that I'm noticing, at least when it comes to having more ink though, you can see how it does break apart, right? So the more ink you put down, the more it starts to break apart. I think because it seems like it is a little bit liquidy as it gets bigger, but I mean, I don't know what that would mean. I mean, you could just go right over it again and then cover it up, but it just seems as a natural thing, it actually gets those little white beads in it. So this is the, alright, so wait. I had the brush before. Okay, I had the brush, and then it says SB. So I'm assuming it's like a soft brush. Ooh, man, you can see the ink that it puts down on this one. Like, it's a lot softer. You can get a lot thicker line with the SB brush. And I mean, it puts down so much ink that you can see it, like it's wet. But, like I said, it's crazy how, you know, because it's so wet, it just beads up. Or not beads up, but, you know, it breaks up that, the consistency of the ink isn't just opaque, it's black and then white, right? So you get a lot of dots and stuff in there, and so that's not cool. The brushes and the thicker things that actually put out ink seems to actually separate between the paper, and so you get those white lines. So it seems the less ink that you put out, the more opaque it is. But then the minute you go to a real thick line, it starts to pull up on those white dots. So that's kind of crappy. All right, let's see. Then we have the thick brush, which is a 1.5. I mean, it's thicker than the other ones, but it's not as thick as I thought it was going to be. I mean, but it is nice and controlled. Lets out ink fairly nicely. Kind of sounds like a marker though when you go over paper. So that's interesting. As it is a pen, it just seems kind of interesting that, you know, when you go over it, it sounds like a marker. It's not bad, but also seems to put down water, right? It just doesn't seem, I don't know, it just seems as though it almost resembles like a water brush, you know, like when we started having problems with the water and it would either bead up and get those little white dots, or it starts pulling up the paper. And it's kind of what I'm feeling as it's wet sitting on top, right? See, because it's still wet. That marks that we did before, it's still wet. And so, look at that. Just tears up the paper. And so that's the brush, right? That SB brush, look at that. It just completely tears up the paper because it stays wet on the paper. So that's a... All right, let's check out this one, last little bit. Okay, so it looks like a brush. Let's see what happens. It's thick, but comes out nice. All right. Oh, and the cap still goes on the back, so that's nice. the brush has a nice, I mean, it still has a nice firm brush to it. So you can make some nice, you know, some thicker lines. But you can, if you really like put it on its top, you can get some smaller, thinner lines. But it's not as thick as I thought it was going to be. I mean, it'll make some thick lines, like so, you know, so if you're trying to do something quick, maybe hair or grass or something like that, it does it really quick. But it, you know, it still has that consistency of water, of like one of the water-based brushes. And so you see how, I mean, we went over that a lot, right? And it's still got this gradation between it. So that stinks, you know. When we were using the Sharpie markers before, when we went over it, it just stayed black, right? But this one, you got to go over it a couple times, and then it's still, you know, you still have gradations in it. So that is odd, right? For being like a big brush that's supposed to cover things. But as far as the brush goes, like the nib itself, so the brush is fantastic, right? It's a nice sturdy brush, holds its tip, can allow you to do nice thinner lines, but as for something to actually cover, it just, I mean, look at that. If you go over something, you can still see that line. I don't know if you guys can see that. But look, see, if you go over it, you can still see the lines underneath it. So that's not good for covering anything. So, I mean, you gotta, you know what I mean? It's like, you gotta know what you like. I mean, if you're trying to do some layering, I guess it would work. But the fact that it's so, it seems so water-based, even though it says, you know, it's India ink and it's waterproof and stuff like that, it just seems as though these pens are really water-based. At least the brushes, they put out the water and it stays on top, and you can, if you rub over it, destroys your paper, and it's not opaque. That's the thing that's really killing me. It's not opaque. All right, so we just got done playing around with the Faber Castel ink pens, and while I do enjoy this company very, very much, I think they make high quality material, this kind of leaves me on the fence. So the pens themselves were actually really good. They flowed well, the ink came out, it was dark, you know, it was nice and opaque, but the minute you went to the brushes, those were not anywhere remotely close to being my favorite when it came to inking, mostly because the ink was not opaque. It just, you needed to layer and layer and layer it, and then it just stayed on top, and then as you saw, it just destroys the paper. And so for me, and you know this, anytime I can let something sit and then go over it and destroys my paper, or while I'm actually working and it destroys my paper, it's a no-go. So for me, the brush pens are no, they're not worth it, because they tear up your paper and it's not even opaque, so you can't even fake it and be like, oh, well, at least it's nice and dark. So those don't work. But the pens themselves, so the Faber Castel pens, are actually really nice. High quality, ink flows, it's nice and opaque, so it's nice and dark, and you can do some nice things with it. But I would recommend sticking with the smaller nibs, because as they get bigger, they start looking more and more like the brush pens as far as the ink flow, the consistency, and how opaque these pens actually are. So if you stick with the XS, S, and F, I think you will be absolutely fantastic. They'll be absolutely fantastic for you. They'll work really nice, and you really don't have to worry about your pen not looking good. But the minute you go up to like the M or the 150, you're pushing it. The M is probably the last pen that I would recommend moving forward, but that is completely up to you. But I do believe that there are other bigger pens that are out there that would actually be more beneficial. But if you're looking for a nice pen that is somewhere around the 03, 05, definitely check out the Faber Castel XS, S, and F pens. They seem to be absolutely fantastic. So I do think that those are worth it. I do not think that the brush pens are worth it. Well, so that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video or even learned something from it. And if you did, please hit that like button, go ahead and share it. And if you are new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are informed when I have put out new content. Lastly, if there's anything that you would like me to review, please drop me a comment and I will put it on the list. Copic markers has been requested a couple times, so that is actually going to happen. I am getting my supply hopefully soon, and a Copic marker review will be happening relatively soon. Thank you guys so very much, and I hope to see you at the next video. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to check out some of my other videos, click on the link on your right. Or, if you're interested in a more behind the scenes and personal look at what I do on a day-to-day basis, please click on the link that leads you to the vlog. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next video.